Hey there, welcome to Unit 3, Lesson 8. We are going to talk about our last president for this unit, which is going to be Thomas Jefferson. In class, if you were absent, which is most likely why you'd be watching this video, we actually started the assignment by doing something together as a group. I'll talk about that assignment when I get done with these notes, because you'll be required to make sure you still finish that assignment on your own and get it submitted for a grade. So today, our focus being on Thomas Jefferson, you are going to fill in an interactive notebook page and then complete the assignment. Again, we are not doing it together if you're watching this video, but I'll talk you through that assignment in just a few minutes. And that just basically says the exact same thing. So the notes portion for today is pretty small and short. It is just going to be this page. So go find your page on Jefferson's presidency, and then you're going to fill in the information about the Louisiana Purchase and the adventures of Lewis and Clark. So let's go ahead and hop into that. When Jefferson becomes president of the United States, you have to remember he's a Democratic Republican, which means he thinks that the states should be the ones that have more power, and that the national government, the federal government, doesn't need to be extending its power. However, he did a move that kind of went against that belief with the Louisiana Purchase. In 1803, he was able to purchase the Louisiana Territory from France. It had previously been French, and then it was given over to Spain. And then in 1800, it went back to France. And then in 1803, we purchased it from the French. So this was a land deal in which the United States acquired approximately 827,000 acres of land. That is a huge amount. I'll show you on a map just exactly how much area was the Louisiana Purchase. They did this for $15 million, which is a lot of money, but is really nothing compared to how much land we were able to gain, and considering the fact that it essentially doubled the size of the United States. Now you need to keep in mind that this purchase was made, and now this was going to be U.S. territory, but there are lots and lots of Native Americans who are still living here who really are not necessarily super thrilled about the fact that all of a sudden their land is being just traded off between other countries and taken away, essentially, because we'll continue to move more and more west and continue to take land from the Native Americans. So once we have this land and the United States has grown in size, and we've got interest in learning about the rest of this area, Thomas Jefferson sends a confidential letter to Congress. And really this happens, I believe, before the Louisiana Purchase is solidified. But he's like, listen, I want to know what else is out there. I want to find a route to the Pacific Ocean. I want to try and figure out how we can set up relationships and do more trade with Native Americans. So he sends this confidential letter to Congress asking for $2,500 so that he can fund an expedition, so that we can go and learn more about the land that is now the United States. He was really, really fascinated about the prospect that he could learn about the geography of the West. He could learn more about the lives of Native Americans, learn more about the plants and animals, the soils, the rocks, everything is here for you, the weather. So he really wanted to learn as much as he possibly could. So it ends up getting funded. And in 1804, there's about 45 men. We always say it's the adventures of Lewis and Clark, but it wasn't just Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea going alone. It's about 45 different men that are headed by Lewis and Clark. They move up the Missouri River. They then go across the Rocky Mountains and then go ahead, and eventually by November of 1805, this is a very long trek, they make it to the Pacific Ocean, and then they return to St. Louis and come back to where they started, essentially, in September of 1806. So it's a very long journey. It gets a lot of fanfare and excitement about this is us going out and exploring and learning about our new lands. There's a lot of tales about Sacagawea being a Native American woman who was going to lead the way for them. She really wasn't a guide. That's kind of just become, a fictionalized story that is just told. She was there. She did help. She helped tremendously when it came to talking to and communicating with other Native American tribes, but she wasn't really a guide for them. one of the guys, I don't even remember which one, but one of them didn't even really like her that much. So her stories just kind of ballooned over time into like her being this great hero. Don't get me wrong, she was like an amazing woman who still did help a lot. It's just you need to know that she wasn't necessarily the guide, and it wasn't just Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea traveling across what would become the United States on their own. So on the next slide, you can see this is the area that we are talking about. So the pink area was what the United States was basically when Thomas Jefferson became president. With the Louisiana Purchase, you can see it almost mirror images. It's like a total like doubling of the country with the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. All of this yellow area is still going to be Spanish territory at this point. And you can see that this is where the voyage actually went. So they went from St. Louis and traveled up the Missouri River. They would come into contact with different groups of people. So the Shoshone, which are right here, that's the actual tribe that Sacagawea was from. So she doesn't even join on to the expedition until much later. So it's not like she was with them even from the beginning. They did a lot of this on their own and then went over and then came back. So that brings us to the end of the notes portion. Make sure you fill in that information in your interactive notebook. Your assignment that if we were in class, we did together is going to be Jefferson, a man of his word. So what you're going to do is open up a series of very small little documents to look at, and they're going to tell you some information about Thomas Jefferson and just give you a little bit of info about his beliefs, about his slave owning, about the Louisiana Purchase, and so on. So what you're going to do is while you're reading through that, you're going to complete the Google Doc that is linked here. And you're going to tell me, we all know that Jefferson was a man who stated in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, right? And he had these great beliefs that he was standing on. But did he always actually follow through with them? That's what you're going to be putting in here. So in the first column, when you're looking at each document, you're going to tell me, what did you learn about Thomas Jefferson from this document? And then in the second column, you're going to tell me, does this provide an example of him either upholding those beliefs that we know of or betraying those beliefs? And then you're going to explain why. So you're going to do that for the 7 tiny documents. And then in the box below, you're just going to tell me, what are your thoughts on Thomas Jefferson? Was he actually a man of his word? Was he simply a product of the era that he was living in? Have your views changed about him? Did you think differently about him before you started doing this assignment and learning about him today? What do you think about Thomas Jefferson, essentially? And then when you're done with that, just submit it. So that brings us to the end. Let me know if you have any questions. And other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, y'all.